Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of Naked Sunday. I am your host, Caleb Nelson, and I have my new friend here, Deanna Lucas, joining me on the podcast today. Deanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It's lovely to have you on, and I like to start all my episodes with why I appreciate my guest because call me crazy. It's probably a good place to start on a journey towards, if I'm so adventurous to say, world peace. We need to tell each other why we love each other a little bit more. And something I really appreciate about you is that you have this very big heart. We were just talking here a few seconds before we even got on here, and just this one individual you said who's been with you through thick and thin, you really want to just love and take care of them and his family, and you're thinking so much about just sharing this love and caring for others. And we've talked a little bit before about just your own work, and it's very obvious that you care very deeply about the people that you are in service of. And I see it like those like loving mom vibes. Like we just need a little more of that. Like somebody gives a damn about us in this day and age, and yeah, that's something I really value about you. So thank you for being you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, I guess I'll collect that mom vote. I guess I'm old enough now. Might as well collect that mom vote.
Listen, mom energy is the unsung hero of everything. Did I tell you this last time we were chatting?
You
Um,
said you were talking about mom energy, something about it, but not the details. No.
for one, moms are the heart of the family. And especially when we think about like what does that mean? The heart kind of distributes the blood throughout the body, to the brain, to the arms, whatever. And if we think about it in an actual family, what does that mean? Moms go and they sort and compile and like organize all of this genius and all the other parts of the body, but it all passes through and flows through that one space. What I continue to find in this world is that not enough of us value what that does until there's problems. And it's the unsung
Well,
hero. It is the unsung hero of all times. And one of the most powerful lessons I learned in business was take care of the moms first. Everything takes care of itself after that because everything gets what it needs. And uh, it's incredibly valuable. And it tends to be, again, the thing that is undervalued until it's not there. And then we go, oh, wait,
cool.
we need that thing.
So let's just talk about that for just one second because that kind of gives me a little bit of those goosebumps. So, if the heart is pumping out blood to an organ and an organ becomes a little ischemic, the heart will continue to pump and grow new veins and vessels to get blood where it needs to go. So we branch out. We do. The heart kind of branches out and takes care of whatever needs to be taken care of, and getting that whatever's vital to that part of the body or life or family. Cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I give you that compliment with the highest of regards. I don't think it's celebrated enough. And because
Probably not.
it's like how do you put a label on it? How do you put a title on it? How do you give it like has its fingers in everything, is everywhere but nowhere at all at the same time? And that's very, very difficult. And I say this from a place of sometimes it's very difficult for me to describe what I do because let's call it spiritual work. It's nothing and everything all at once. And it's difficult to live in those in between spaces. It's difficult to put a number on it. And it's usually we can tell when it's not there. Right? We walk into a culture there's not a lot of warmth and connection and love.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Walk into one where it's just like, I don't know why, but I just want to hang out here. I feel
Yeah.
safe. I feel loved. I feel valued. I feel appreciated. And it's hard to you can't put just your finger on like the one reason why. It's a little bit of a lot of
Right.
reasons. So that's
Yeah.
that's that kind of footprint that I think it really has there, the fingerprint, you know?
Yeah. That's kinda interesting. When I was younger, I had went to a cousin's home. I won't mention who, but went to a cousin's home. Felt really, just had that something just isn't right, like, feeling. And, came back and told my grandma and my mom, and years and years passed. And then my grandmother ended up moving down there in her older years. She was like 86 or 87 and moved down there. And she came back to me. She came to visit us, and she said, "Deanna, I know exactly what you mean. I don't like being down there, and I'm not going back." So yeah, if you've ever really truly been in that kind of situation, you do understand.
Cool. So yeah, I was excited for to hang out with you today. I was really looking forward to this. Um,
Cool.
Before we dive into more stuff, you know yourself better than I. So how about you share with the audience, who are you?
Well, okay. I'm, of course, Deanna Lucas, digital marketing agency, D&D Business Systems. We help automate and help businesses run, and business owners get life work balance. They get time back in their week. They get to manage their businesses and make a change in their business and grow. Get their ideal business back.
There we go. Ideal business. And that's I think that the word of the times right now is the work-life balance thing, especially the rise of lifestyle businesses. Let's do this. How did you get here? How did we get into this? Because I know you also have talked a lot about like one of the special companies you kind of tend to specialize in is a lot of builders or contractors, construction, that kind of thing. How did you get?
I grew up in it. I actually have my first day at school. I'm on a job site, because I grew up on a job site. We built the home that we live in. We lived on the property while we built the home that we lived in for years. And then my family has built over 300 homes. And so I grew up in that. I went into having not a digital marketing. I went into having a designing and business where I actually did the construction work of those designs, and a lot of worked on thousands and thousands of other homes. And then the housing market crashed. So, with this housing market crash, I kind of switched gears a little bit, and then have found myself back, have a desire on my heart to kind of mainly help builders and contractors, service-based businesses that want to be found locally, kind of master that being seen and standing out and keeping their businesses going. So,
Yeah. Tell me a little more
yeah.
about your childhood. And like that's a very interesting environment to grow up in, especially,
It was.
yeah.
We always had a sand pile or a pile of something. Everybody I know when they were a kid played King of the Mountain, and you just beat everybody else down off the mountain, and as long as you could knock everybody down the hill. And so mine was either on a stack of blocks or bricks or on a sand pile. But yeah, we did. You know. We would go over to it was actually a little trailer that mom and dad pulled up on the property. And my dad actually had a full-time job. He worked nights. He was a coal miner to start out with. And he would come home, sleep a couple hours, and we'd wake up and we'd work on this big house we were building. And we have pictures. My mom would be out there in her rollers. I don't know where she was going, but she would be throwing sand and stuff up into the cement mixer, and she just would lay out where she wanted the walls to be and things like that. And they built a very very large home at the time. It was a lot of years ago, and they yeah. So it just we uh, just just that old country job site kind of life. I had my first motorcycle when I was 6 years old, and that my mom and dad had matching motorcycles. They were Hudakas, and they were silver and red. And I would ride on with mom, and my brother would ride on with my dad, and that's how we would relax. We'd just go out in the woods on motorcycles and ride through the woods, and yeah, just taking it easy, living a good life. My dad would, every 3 years, he was a union miner, and every 3 years they would go on strike and strike for a new contract. And they always, when we were growing up, they always depicted coal mining towns, especially where I was from, as we were all just, dirt poor and dumb, and all of us kids ran around butt naked and and barefoot, and so one time the New York Times was down to do a write up about our family, or well, about the about not about our family, but about the strike that the miners were on. Because back then, when miners would strike, I mean, like miners would strike if the teachers weren't getting what they wanted. So coal miners would go out on strike until the teachers got what they wanted. So they would strike to make sure everything, in communities and towns were up and up and done right and things like that. But anyway, so they were on a strike for a new contract, and Dad said, "Hey, why don't you come over to my house and see how the other half of us coal miners live?" Right? Because every time they would want to, they would find these rundown. I don't know where they found these people, these rundown shacks in the middle of the mountains somewhere. So they came over and they did a write up on us. And at that time, we were actually building a house on a piece of property behind us, in a housing development behind us. And so I had my picture in the New York Times. I was doing drywall. We were all in the kitchen of this house doing the drywall. My mom up on a ladder, my brother down on the floor, Dad sanding the ceiling, and me with a drywall knife in my hand, and doing that. So then after about 17 years, because in 18 years, the union mines had to pay all the miners all their benefits. So after 17 years, now they hired all these miners where my dad worked, brand new. So at 17 years, they just shut down the mine and they tell all the employees, "See ya." And that was about the same time I was ready to graduate high school. So here my dad was trying to figure out what he was going to do, and it just seemed the right thing. He went into real estate and building modular houses. So we went into lifting them with cranes and putting them on foundations, and build big houses from there on out all over our state.
It's pretty wild.
It is a pretty wild, childhood. Before while he was working in the coal mines, we would do things like we would put in HVAC systems, and we'd do odd and end things on houses all the time, all over the place. I can remember crawling up under some pretty shaky houses to put ductwork in, because Dad wouldn't fit back when I was a little kid. Um, these were houses where the foundation was stones, rocks, not a nice, good, firm foundation either. But yeah, cool times. It was great. My dad treated me like there was nothing, because I was female, that I wasn't capable of doing, and that really meant a lot to me. That he always valued my opinion on the homes and the things that we did together and business, and yeah, it
Wow.
was good.
There's a few things that really stuck out to me in all of this. Number one, his entrepreneurial spirit. Like, hey, here's the thing. Now we're going to pivot. We're going to go do this other thing. But the other thing about, you just talked about the foundation. I think we talked a little bit about foundation on our last chat. How interesting that you were able to see all these shaky foundations, but you've been able to, most people, especially business owners, we're talking about a little bit about time management and work-life balance and all the other things. And I think about the heart. We talk about the heart of the family here. How little time we are spending on building the foundation of the heart of the family, or the heart of the business, and having a system that serves that appropriately. So especially in a world like that, where there's a lot of moving parts, you're talking about HVAC systems and foundations. And listen, I am the last person to ever ask about building a damn thing on a house. I've put up some drywall a couple times, but like my wife, she asks my friends if we need house projects done around here. It's not me. I am the last person. She knows better. Um, because it's not definitely not my skill set. Um,
It's not for everyone,
I have,
but I've done it all from the ground up.
but there's something so important about that, and I'll come back to this foundation element here, where we're talking about taking care of the most important. I mean, everything rests upon it. You can have the prettiest roof and the beautiful drywall and all the beautiful paints and all the like, you can have all the beautiful trimmings, but if your foundation sucks,
Oh,
one
yeah.
bad storm, one bad
Yeah.
pivot, that like it's gone. And then the other element where it felt a lot of like the same thing where you said the coal miners would go on strike if other elements of the community were being underserved. I found that to be really interesting. And again, it comes down to back to foundation. Well, okay, so this if the center of the community or the profit center of the community is, let's call it coal mining, the subsidiary things are all going to be impacted by that. But that like wielding and understanding that power of what must like the responsibility of that, it makes a lot more sense as we're kind of talking about again, we've talked about for you, like with how you're serving and creating these systems, especially for these construction building companies. You need all these systems to work harmoniously together. Otherwise,
Sure do.
yeah, I mean, you know, growing up, what kind of lessons did you learn about business in witnessing your father? Both the good, like, hey, this is awesome. I want to replicate that, but like where were there's gaps that perhaps that you've been fulfilling and or fixing in your own work? Like how you've been like, oh, these were the missing pieces that wow, this is really what we needed to work on. What are some of the lessons you saw there?
Great question. I think some of the gaps that Dad kind of held on to every aspect of his business. There was not anything that he really reached out and said, "Okay, you know, I'm going to bring this one in, or this system in, or this piece in." So I think kind of holding on to everything and not, I think we have to really pay attention to patterns in our business. Like we have to measure things and we have to know the measurements of the same as you would go in, building a home or a room or whatever. You would have that floor plan, you would have that plan in place, you would have all your measurements all laid out, and you would constantly be measuring. What's that old measure twice or four times and cut once?
Four times is
Same
better than
thing with
twice. Yeah.
four times is better than twice sometimes. So and then cut it a little longer. That's usually what I do. I'll leave it even longer than my line. Um, and then we always say, too, now is it that measurement cut my line, or that measurement leave my line? So that little hairline can make all the difference. We do a lot of the finishing work that if you've taken your line where you mark your line on your wood, it's totally different than if you leave the line. So we've got to do the same in our measurements of, how many leads does it take till I get, a good quality lead? How many leads, does it take before my leads are within this price range or this group? And how many ad dollars does it take until, I've got this many qualifying leads? When I talk to them and I go and give estimates, out of how many estimates do I actually turn into, a project that, and is this the type of project that, somebody that I want to work with again? Just, not, that's just dealing with a lead, there's everything else on top of that. I think that's where I would say there's been some gaps. Keeping your tally on all of the costs and measuring your success.
Mm. Well, it sounds like the other element that was really glaring to me right away was bringing in help. Seems like,
Yeah.
especially if you're that solopreneur or you took a big risk, you started this business, you're getting some money coming in, asking for help. I don't know. Call me crazy. Asking for help gets real scary. We got to trust other people, especially if it's been burned before. It's really difficult.
Well, you know what I think that it bothers most people with? I think they think if I bring somebody in and they look at the numbers, they're going to tell me I've never had a business. I've just had a hobby. And I think that really, really scares some people. They don't want maybe all of the numbers and all the figures and all of that to show them, look, you aren't even running a business. Let's snap out of it and let's switch gears here and try to run a business.
So there's maybe a fear of shame or judgment is behind that.
Well, no, I think maybe a fear of having to make some big decisions. This means I can no longer go like I'm going. Like I have to make a decision of either give this up and, maybe I don't really have a business, so let me give this up versus I need to make some big changes. Some people just aren't ready for change and can't handle change well. And I think it maybe just they're afraid that it's going to make them have to have so much information that they can't help but have to make a decision. Maybe that's part of it.
How do you bridge the gap in trust there then?
I think the gap is by letting someone know that this is not a judgment call. This is just checking out some patterns, just kind of getting some information to gathering information to make the best next move, to make the best decision to either fix or continue. Um, a lot of times we're doing a lot of things to equal or to get to a certain point where if we really pay attention to what the key things that got us there, it can allow us to weed out a bunch of stuff that we really didn't, that we realize maybe at some point that wasn't really what got me here. This is what really got me here. And so they get a lot of time back by getting rid of the things that don't really turn over.
It's like it's actually addition by subtraction, letting go of the things that, like, I'm subtracting the things that are costing me more time and money than I thought were, and then all of a sudden I'm getting this. I'm both adding time and then adding value because these are the actual things that give me return on investment, not the other.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yes. And it's not easy when you're in the middle of it, you're like, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And it's like an I got to, like I have to. There's no other choice. But when you can kind of stand on the outside and look in versus standing on the inside looking out, it's somebody can say, why don't you try not doing this or this week? Just see how it goes.
How do you think things would have been different if your father brought in more of that help and support? Or did you become that when you were younger in some way, shape, or form?
Well, I sometimes I was that way in a lot of ways. A lot of times I was called in when uh, someone couldn't get a finished product to look a certain way. They couldn't get it to satisfy, a perfectly smooth ceiling or, some trim piece or some finishing work couldn't, quite, satisfy the homeowner. Dad would call in and say, hey, can you go down and take a look and, finish this project for me? There's times when he'd say, this crew's taking forever. Can you, go and you know, kick him in the butt and get him moving and get this project finished. And so different things. I think that if he could have called somebody else in to kind of helped him keep track of some costs and some numbers, pay a closer attention to some numbers, that it probably would have done him, improved him quite a bit.
I was
He always used subcontractors. So, subcontractors is what he used to kind of finish off the homes and finish the homes and things. So, for several years there, he had a pretty good crew. But I think that one way that could have helped him is if he would have probably had a crew leader that, even though he was subbing out, could have been on each job site and made sure that things were, and overseen it a little bit better. My dad always liked his entrepreneurial, I get to do what I want to do when I want to do it kind of mentality, to a fault sometimes. And yeah, so hopefully dad won't hear this one, but
all one.
that's what he did. That freedom of not having to be, tied down to it.
Well, that's interesting to me. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in the psychology of why do we do the things that we do, and often it's, well, how do we? Many times it's we're trying to solve the problems of our youth. What were we hoping to have more? And I'm going to go out on a limb and say
Mhm.
you also probably hoped your dad had more quality time and work life balance and didn't feel so like that. And correct me if I'm way wrong. Obviously, you guys had to have some connection through the work because of all the things you've shared before. But um,
Well,
go ahead.
I do. Let me stop you there, because what I kind of, you hear people talk about the younger generation and all these millennials, this and this and this, but I kind of admire them. My generation, and I guess my parents' generation, we just were workaholics. That's all we did. That's all we knew. We just work, 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 work. And thank goodness these, younger generations are coming in and saying, no, it's not all about that. It's about having that work-life balance, and I just really think they're onto something. They've got it spot on. They don't want to work, 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 and I admire them for that. I'm a workaholic, actually, to a fault. My son asked me the other day, "Mom, when's the last time you went down to the beach and just sat there and listened to music or read a book?" And I was like, well, it's been a while. And when I did I'm always got a self-help book or something to help me with my business. I'm either listening to it in my ears. I may be, feeling the waves hit me, but I'm still, to a fault, like, working. It's bad.
We're gonna enjoy this then. Are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we only think of the hierarchy of needs on an individual level. We have to also look at it from a societal level. So each generation is climbing or kind of starting from a different level. Ironically,
Huh.
I'm a millennial for the record, of 39 now, and my generation was one of the drivers is work life balance. But under work life balance, if we think more deeply around that, we arrived at self actualization much earlier because of people don't want to hear it, but like we're built on the shoulders of giants. So the previous generations solved other problems that we didn't have to deal with so we can get there faster. But the generation before us is a lot of around belonging and identity. And a lot of times identity is wrapped into the work that we do. Where's the place that we've had our validation? So if we've been identified and our value and our worth has been tied to I work and my job and the lifestyle it's provided and the things and the success or the whatever, the hard part is to change our value and our self-worth from that being the thing we aspired for however many 40, 50, sometimes 60 years, maybe longer, even being like, oh well, now I've climbed to this. Is that really solving the problem that I'm really going toward? It's very, very difficult if the current strategy you're using to solve quote unquote that life problem of success, at least on this level of the personal development scale and compared to your peers of your generation, that's the hard part to unwind because we are stuck. And I say we're stuck in that block there. And it's also very difficult to see what the previous generation did to understand and value that. So my generation, I think, well, the old timers, they did this. And it's like, or also, those were the things that allowed us the ability to be thinking about the bigger things earlier. Whereas the previous
That's
generation had to
true.
think more about survival, think about just security, thinking about just putting food on the table. And I'm saying these in big broad strokes. So there's something
Yeah.
around that. And I wanted to share that with you because I think it's difficult for us to see that. And it's really cool to hear how you appreciate that because neither generation's bad or good. It's just different. And
Right.
how can we
Yeah.
value and appreciate each generation for what they're bringing to the table? And each of them
Yes.
comes with their trade-offs. The thing that really drives me nuts,
True.
people just want to blow up the past and be like, oh, they all sucked because one thing they're upset about. It's like, or we're all human and we all have had flaws. If we focus on the positive things and we let and stop holding these grudges towards the negative things, we can just carry the positives into the future. How do we integrate that? That's the hard part because it's always this combative war between generations as opposed to,
It's
wow, I
crazy.
respect what you did here and I respect what you're bringing to. How can we work together?
Yeah.
Is the thought.
Absolutely.
Mm. It's really tough. It's really tough because and this is the premise of all my work, and this is if you're into self-help stuff, here you go. Your lifestyle is built upon your identity. So your identity, your self-concept is the foundation of your life. Your lifestyle is essentially how you manage your time or organize your time. That's the blueprint. And then what you do with that, that's the you build with habits. You do the stuff and then it's like putting the sheetrock up and everything, all the stuff. But underneath it is the
All this.
foundation, the identity. How deep is your sense of self? How deep is the roots in the ground? And we've seen it with like the analogy of the tree of life. Well, the tree has very deep roots, and if you just look above it, it kind of looks the same way. The branches and the leaves and the fruit that comes from it. The deeper the roots, the more riches and the water and the minerals and the nutrients it pulls to then express itself at the farthest point. But the hardest part is like that's down in the deep, in the dark places. That's to the scary parts of our soul, and it's gross. And
That's right. And when there's all the nourishment that any living thing with roots needs, when all the nourishment is right there close to the roots, they won't grow. They get everything they need right there. They only grow because they're searching for more nutrients that they need. So that's pretty cool. Same like we were talking when we first started about the vessels, those little tiny, teeny, tiny vessels. They grow more and deeper the more the body needs it. The bigger the heart gets, the bigger the other organs get, the more vessels and branches and roots, so to speak. Cool.
Mm. I thought you might like that. That's cool. I'm glad that we got to share that. It's difficult
Yeah.
if somebody hasn't already done some of that exploration, so it's really cool that you're familiar with some of those concepts. I was still thinking a little bit about how you pivoted, you said during the housing crisis. That's really interesting. It takes a lot of courage, again, to go from one thing to the next thing. Like, it sounds like you've made some pretty big evolutions.
Well,
And
I made a couple pivots in there. One big pivot that I made was I said, you know what, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to pick a career that no matter what the economy's doing, I'm working. And so I went to nursing school. And then in that, being in nursing school, I was working on my master's, family nurse practitioner, all the while doing homes, building homes, remodeling, flipping, all of it. And I just at this point from into my last year, for my master's for a nurse practitioner, I had to have more clinical hours. And I said, what can I do that can allow me to be in the doctor's offices for almost 4 days a week and still, pay all the bills while I'm doing this? And that took me right back into my entrepreneurial, back into the home business. I said, you know what? So I studied for years this, digital marketing aspect of this, and started helping builders with, digital systems, and which is now leading into all this AI and automation, which I am loving and fascinated with. We are coming, people are used to seeing and hearing some, uh, artificial someone answering the phone and talking to them, and making these type of appointments, and things over the phone. So this is becoming a normal thing, and to where a contractor builder can actually have, without hiring on all kind of staff, they can have people, an AI employee that I have can answer the phone for them, can message them on their phone, get them booked on calendars to do estimates, and ask for referrals and ask for reviews and automate all that. It's just, it's wonderful. So I've built this, and now I'm back with my peeps, helping my peeps master the business side of building.
Love that.
That's how I ended up even becoming a podcaster myself. My podcast is called The Builder's Edge, where we master the business side of building.
I'm excited because I'm coming on. I think tomorrow we're recording that episode where I come on.
You
So I'm
are. You're going to help anybody needs a business coach. We're going to let you help them figure this out, how to manage their lives, their businesses.
yeah,
I'm
it's the
excited.
managing the life part that's the hard part. Um,
Yes.
one of the hardest thing, and it comes to the other parts of systems. This is what I've realized. I think, and this is why it's fun for you and I to be having this conversation. Um, I- People get lost chasing the money, and don't like. I hope people don't get this mistaken. Yes, we live in the real world. We need to fund
You
our.
got to pay your
You got
bills.
to pay the damn bills, right? Like, I'm not an idiot here. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But the problem is in the if you never slow down enough to question how you are generating the money, in that how you are investing your time, you don't get clarity of direction. Then people go down these pathways where they more or less just like box themselves into a corner, and they don't see how they
Yeah.
can create more freedom in their life. And it's because they didn't take some time initially to think about that. And why I'm saying this is that the foundation of everything, as we talked about before, is the self concept. On top of that is layered your time, your blueprint of your life. And I like to pivot and say, like, it's not so much called work life balance, it's work life harmony, because there is your life, and then work is an element of your life. How that fits in there is
It's supposed to
very
be.
important. How we're valuing our time. Most people just go to their job and they get paid whatever they can, and they're waiting on somebody else to tell them when they can make more money. So they're trading their time for money and not realizing, well, that's part of why you're boxed in, as opposed to Zoom.
Waiting for that yearly evaluation. Whoopee. So I
Whoopee.
can get a cents raise. Yeah.
And not knowing, is that going to keep up with the economy, with inflation, or we won't
Yeah.
even use all the technical jargon of
Right.
money. But when we start to zoom out, if we were a little more intentional and we spent a little more time upfront building the foundation of self, what do I truly value? How do I want to spend my time? Um, I've calculated something called stress spend, which most people never think about. The amount of money we spend because we're tired, anxious, hungry, cranky, whatever, strung out, whatever. It's whether we're spending money on food that's just like garbage takeout that makes you feel like garbage and you make worse decisions, or some people have shopping addictions, drinking, sex, drugs, whatever the thing is, to all numb ourselves out from the existence we've created for ourselves, that we don't think it was 1, 2, 5, 10 years ago that started us down this path. Where I'm going with this is not enough people take the time to develop a deep, meaningful understanding of who they are and then how they intentionally craft their time. It's I need the money, I want the stuff, I want all the stuff because they're realistically they're comparing themselves to the person who's on their 50th step who has this big beautiful mansion and all the stuff and they make all this money all these different ways, but like
Yeah.
they haven't even asked is that
All those people on Facebook.
on
Oh, I mean Facebook. Yes.
fake book. I like that. I haven't heard that actually. Um, we don't know is that the lifestyle we want? Because not enough people spend enough time asking, are they in a happy marriage? What's their health like? And you see so many people, it's a year, 2, 5, 10 years down the line. Oh, just had a heart attack. Oh, got the divorce. Oh, got the it's the list of all the things because nobody only we only put up our wins on the almighty social media. We don't have
Yeah.
real understanding on what's going on underneath, and we get lost chasing other ideas, other people's ideas of happiness, as opposed to
Yeah.
what is our ideal of fulfillment. And what I've continued to find is you actually spend a lot less money and save a lot more time if you are very intentional about figuring that out. Now, that being said, most people don't get to that moment where they're really willing to investigate themselves until they're, let's call it 40 years old. It's like when life really begins. I've failed enough times with trying to do it every like chasing the
Yeah.
rabbit. Now I'm like, I'm done with that. How am I going to live this life? What am I doing with my life? You know, you've probably people have seen friends die or businesses fail, or you've seen enough evolutions. Like,
Yeah.
okay, the mask and the shine is kind of coming off this thing. Maybe there's a different way. It's around those things. So that's why one of the many reasons why I'm really excited to talk on your podcast because
Yeah.
there's so many beautiful parallels. One of the things I was curious about, like how cool that you have you have this experience as a nurse practitioner, but also in this construction world, seemingly drastically different things.
Drastically different in a lot of ways. In some ways, it's not. I mean,
That's what I'm
I
curious about.
manage patients the same way I manage a business. You have to make sure, you look out for your patient the same way you look out for your own business. You say, hey, you're not going to do that. You're not going to get away with that, or you need to be doing this. And yeah, we nurses argue with the doctor about what's best for you sometimes, all the time. Uh, but anyway, yeah, it's similar in a lot of ways, but it is very different worlds.
Yeah, tell me some of those similarities because I say this for people that are wanting, let's call it the midlife crisis, or I like to call it, if you allow it to be, it's more of a midlife emergence. Like I'm going to be more of myself as opposed to blowing my life up. And you see a lot of people in that midlife want to pivot careers into something that's more fully embodied of who they are. And they're like, well, I'm in this spot, but I really like that other thing. There's nothing that's carrying over. That's not true. Like, so you just shared some of those things, like you're essentially advocating and holding patients accountable, advocating for and holding patients accountable. What are some other similarities that maybe you didn't even think were similarities between those two worlds that you're seeing how you're bringing that into the construction world?
Well, we both have inspectors. You have to have permits. I got my RN license. Got to have your contractor's license. Have your permit to work. You got to have clear thing to work. You got to have those coming in and you do so much of the job site, and then you have them come inspect until you can keep on going. So every year we have those coming into our nursing facilities, checking it all out. The hospitals telling us whether or not we can keep on going or what we need to fix to be able to keep working. You kind of have a finished product when you're done. You got to make everybody happy. That's another thing. When you're building a home for somebody, you got to make everybody happy. You got to make, if you have any subcontractors, you got to make them happy. You got to make the home buyer happy, and you got to make, the numbers all happy and correspond and meet. Um, I don't know. I guess that's some similarities. That's quite a few, isn't it?
Well, yeah, the two things that stick out to me there is that there's standards, more or less. There's a standard that must be met within both things, and it's probably all the numbers and the tracking and everything you're talking about from like ethical boards of like, okay, we need at a minimum we need to do these things, but I think the more challenging one is the one you just talked about, is to make everybody happy. But the word that jumped out to me was, oh, you're satisfying a team. It's a team effort. It's not just one person. It is, there's this thing, and how do all these things come together in service of, well, nursing world, like how do we nurse this person back to health so that we can, you know, send them home healthy and happy and go on living their life. Or hey,
Yeah.
we're now in the construction world. It's cool, finished product, signed paperwork, we're done, final check is clear, we're all good. Go live a happy life with your family. Enjoy your home that we've created for you.
Yeah.
Go build some memories. Um, there's a lot of intertwining pieces that must integrate appropriately
Oh,
for
yeah.
all parties to be happy. And it sounds like that communication is, I mean, let's be real. It's always the communication that's the hard part. We're like, here's a checklist of stuff, but how's it going to get done? Is the hard.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Communication in any business is a big key. In any life, challenge or thing you face in life is to keep the communication clear and constantly going.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. A homeowner doesn't know why no one's on the job site today, why there's no one there and they want to get in there and celebrate Christmas, and why nobody is on their job site today. So, yeah.
Learning how to manage unmet expectations or creating expectations, and learning how to, you know, not what's the statement? Undersell, over deliver, those kind of concepts. They're very
Yeah.
difficult to navigate when you are creating a system. It's not just, hey, we're going to slap some boards together, paint it real nice, and then like off we go. Yes, practically that's what happens, but the human element is the thing that kind of brings it all together.
Yeah.
So yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's move on to some fun questions. Let's have some fun. Question number one:
Okay.
what sports and or creative activities did you engage in when you were younger, and how did you play? Like, what was your
Oh
style
my
of play?
goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, I was never on a team, but we played all the time, everything, all over the place. I don't know. And what was my style? We got to win or else. I don't know. We just played a lot of family football in the front yard. Like, we didn't have grass in the front yard because we were always playing kickball, football, you name it. We were always playing in the front yard. Um, I, at 15 years old, had my first entrepreneurial business, and I actually was a photographer, and I went around taking photographs of all the teams. So I was probably, already into my entrepreneurial work. I guess I thought I had to work instead of play on a sports team.
I like your response. That was fun, and I'm going to tell you why. So, I studied kinesiology in college. It's a really fancy word for
Okay.
study of human movement. For you would probably know because you studied nursing. Um, anyway, one of the classes I took, I think it was my freshman year, was it was centered around play, and I dismissed it at the time because I was like, "Oh, this is silly." I've quickly learned that it's not, because here I am, I don't know, almost 20 years later talking about it. And,
Okay.
uh, so anyway, play is important because it shows how do we solve problems and what is our tendencies. So what I heard in that, teamwork. You played a lot of games as a family, learning how to like football, like a little rough and tumble. So that's also
Yeah.
cool. The similar with both those, like nursing is not like a low stress job. It's there's a lot of intense stuff that happens there. I have many friends that are nurses.
And I was an emergency room nurse, so it got pretty physical sometimes. Yeah.
You're
Okay.
not afraid of a mess, basically, is what you're trying to say.
No.
Oh, go figure,
Bring it
right?
on.
I think
Yeah.
that's really powerful, especially also in like the construction world. It's a mess. It's okay, but from a mess, from this nothingness or seeming nothingness, from raw materials, comes something very beautiful. And where I'm going with that is the photography, this creative lens of capturing all that it was, capturing the team, capturing the finished product of a game that kind of wraps the bow. Like we just talked about, like, oh, we're sending the patient home, or we've signed the final contracts, the final check is cleared. Go build your life. Here's your home. This is the finished product here. I found it to be really cool to say how in an interesting way you've always been doing what you already are, and you found a creative opportunity as an as creating a small business of, hey, how do I provide more value to the people that I'm already serving or participating with? And you've been doing that all along. So what I see, especially with the picture, is being able to zoom out and see the whole thing. As we're talking about creating systems, a system for a business must take into all parts, must take into the human,
Yes.
what are their tendencies, what are the type of client they serve, what are the various elements that are going into the system so that it can work start to finish, not just the first part or the fifth part. It's how does the first part connect to the fifth part and then cycle over and over and allow it to be, so the memories are great. So we can look back on it with the fondness and loving energy that we always wanted. So I thought that was a really cool response for all those different reasons right there. And now you can see that was life in
Cool.
a different way.
Cool. I love
You
it.
like that? Cool. I'm glad you liked it.
I do love it. Yeah, you're right. From the time somebody gets a lead all the way to, they're sending them a referral, giving a review, and they are in their, email contact list. And we're just reaching out quarterly to them to just say, how's things going? Just keeping the builder and contractor in their thoughts, because people are out and they're saying, man, I need to have I want to have this backyard oasis. And then they remember, oh, so and so came out and did this on ours. You got to call them if if the builder is staying up in their minds and thoughts. So all the way that whole every piece of that is a big, huge system from start to finish, and then some.
Not to mention, hey, take a picture of the finished product with the happy family in front of the whatever finished product is. Like that's solidifying the
Absolutely.
memory altogether. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Question number 2.
All right.
Stranded on a desert island. You get to bring
Uh-huh.
one movie and one TV show with you that you get to that's it. You get those 2 for the till the end of time. What movie and what show are you bringing with you and why?
Oh my gosh, I love movies. Like that's just too many. And I don't like uh, TV shows. Because they just string from one from another. But I will have to say one kind of brings back just some fond memories. I guess the show would be Frasier, just because it's so silly and goofy. And there's so many seasons, so I'd have plenty to, listen to. A movie, wow, a movie that's just for some reason, wow. Of course, uh, gosh, I don't know. There's a movie called Summersby that I left that movie theater saying, man, we really need, we really need people willing to stand up for a name and for who they are, like they did in that movie. It was with Richard Gere and Jodie Foster, and it's during Civil War, the end of the Civil War, and yeah, that's for some reason that one's sticking out to me.
I find that really interesting right there. So I believe the media that we choose to continually come back to says a lot about what we are drawn to. Now, especially I've had only one person not give one of the movie or the show being something humorous. I come to believe like laughter is one of the best parts of life. If we're not laughing, we're definitely not living. We're definitely not making it through this life with any semblance of joy. So Fraser, awesome response there. Um,
Yeah.
Especially what you just said right there. Are we willing to stand up for something to, and what do you say, like be yourself or be who you are or something along those lines? I find that to be really interesting because again, this is everything we keep talking about today. What is the foundation upon which we stand on? And chances are that there's a lot of people who are not standing up for or doing things of substance or depth or making strong decisions in life because they don't know what they're standing up for. They don't know why they're standing up for it. And I think that what you're saying there almost is a champion and a call for people to rise up and like step forward as themselves for what they believe in and have the courage to step forward. So there was something really beautiful about what you're saying there that it seems like it inspired you perhaps after you left that to go do even more of that type of self initiative into the world. So that was a really cool response.
Okay. Thank you.
As you can see, these fun questions have a little more behind them than just meets the eye, right?
They do have a little bit of psychology behind them, but that's pretty cool. That's
I'm a
interesting.
little bit of a crazy person if you haven't gathered that by now. But third and final question:
Okay.
what is your deathbed meal? Who are you sharing it with, and why?
Who is my deathbed meal? Who am I sharing it with and why? Well, my deathbed meal will be made by my son David because he is the bomb cook. And although he says he's not any good at it, it probably would be one of his massive steaks. Um, and then I would be eating it with my family, my two sons, myself, my mom, my dad, my brother and nephews and daughter-in-laws, and be, all my close family.
I love this.
Yeah,
So here's the reason why.
yeah.
Here's the reason why I asked this question. I have another question that's similar, but I won't say darker, but like a little more somber. And that who's holding your hand on your deathbed? For one, the meal in and of itself, I think that there's something very healing and very powerful about sharing a meal together. It's sure we're breaking bread. Yes, we're filling our bellies. Yes, we're doing all that. But there's so much more that's on the plate. There's history. There's culture. There's love that's showing up there. There's belief systems that show up in those things. And to share and break bread with somebody else is to integrate those things together. And also in that, I don't know if you're familiar with um, what's it called? The Hermetic principle of as above, so below, as within, so without, so the universe, so the soul. More or less, the general premise of this is what is in front of us is the mirror of us. Our life is our mirror. Who is across from us is a mirror of ourselves. And at the end of our life, the person sitting across from us or holding our hand is a mirror of the growth we've had for ourselves and the pursuit of our ideal self in our lifetime. So I think there's something really beautiful about who we choose. If we had the opportunity to choose who we want to be with on our last breath, there's always something really powerful. What do they symbolize in ourselves? Why are they there beyond just like I love them? Well, what about them do I love? And chances are it's what you've been aspiring to bring out more of in yourself the entire time. And that's why I asked that question because it brings those things to mind. And it also makes it really clear, wait, if I say that all these things are important, if I say these people are the most important, have I been making the time for it? And that brings it full circle with all the work-life balance stuff earlier. It's like, is life all about work? Or if we're saying the most important thing is the people I'm going to be sharing my final meal with, am I spending my life with them? How am I sharing that time with them? To me, it gives a lot of clarity to that. So there's that one.
Good point. Good point.
Uh,
Cool.
I think about death a lot in a not so morbid way, but more about bringing clarity to what we should be doing in our life. The final element, I think you'll
Oh,
go ahead. What you're saying?
I just said, okay, that makes sense now. If you have a goal to it, okay.
It's yeah. I don't just think about death for the sake of thinking about death. That is just doom and gloom and doesn't do anybody any good. It's more like, well, how how does it give me perspective on this very moment? Where do I need to put my attention and my focus right now? Because it's easy to get distracted chasing the shiny object. And
Absolutely.
more
And then the next subject.
Yeah, but the ironic part is, there's that saying of your best ideas come to you in the shower. It's when you stop thinking about work that the breakthroughs in work happen because you zoom out far enough to be able to see the thing clearly. And that's hard to
Good
remember
point.
when you're in it because you're like, but I got to keep pushing as opposed to, do I have
Yeah.
real perspective on where I'm going? No, you're just seeing the forest. You can't see the forest through the trees. And that's really, really difficult. So, that's the little reminder on that. But the overarching part to those 3 questions that I think you'll like, especially with, the clear love and affinity you have for your relationship with your father, is that when I was younger, my father worked a lot, and he does art. Um, his artwork is somewhere back there. He does something called marquetry. I don't know if you're familiar with the art form, but anyway, he traveled a lot. He worked a lot. Was constantly doing stuff. Anyway, I always knew he loved me, and the reason why was because every, let's call it 4 to 6 weeks, we would go out for a boys' night. He and I, we'd go get a bite to eat. We'd go walk around Sports Authority, which no longer exists. I don't think it does. And we'd talk about whatever sports I'm doing and maybe get I don't know, some piece of sporting equipment or whatever. And then we'd catch a movie. So this is my way of bringing my experience of love to you and sharing that moment with you and how I experienced it when I was younger. So bringing it a little full circle there.
Cool.
Glad you enjoyed.
Thanks.
It's all about warming the
Yeah,
heart, sharing love with people.
that's right.
So, if somebody's listening now, Deanna, and they're like, listen, I've got a construction business. I got to build, I'm a builder. I like to build nice, beautiful things. I love to make people's dream homes, all those kinds of things. And they're like, but I need some help and I want to connect with her. What would be the best way for these people to get in touch with you?
Well, they can through the Builder's Edge podcast, where we master the business side of the building. It's on Apple and Spotify, or they can go to DND, Deanna, Neil, and David, that's my boys, DND business systems.com, and get me there. Book a free, I don't like to call it an audit. We'll just sit and talk about your business and see if I can help and where I can help, and we go from there.
Beautiful. And call me crazy. You might end up with a
Um, I
blueprint.
do have I do have a something that I have for your viewers today. It's called a builder's blueprint, a visibility blueprint. So it tells them exactly, I'll give it to you so you can add it to the show, where it gives them exactly, what they need to make sure they're doing and how to do it in all of their digital presence, making sure that they're trusted first, on first, and seem to be that authority in what they do. Of course, I work with all businesses, but I do have a little special place in my heart for those builders. I know where they're coming from. I understand their business. I've had multiple clients of mine say, it really helps having a marketer know what I'm going through and know what I need to happen with a lead when I get it and what kind of lead I need to have and things like that. So it makes a difference.
Especially when you understand how they feel on the inside on a very visceral level, because
Yeah,
hell, you lived it. If y'all are lazy like
yeah.
me and didn't remember to write all that stuff down, don't worry. Just go to the show notes. I promise you, I put the link there. You will find all those beautiful things on how to connect with Deanna there, and you'll be glad you did. I was like,
Thanks,
I
Caleb.
hope she's got the line of a blueprint in there with whatever offering, because it's perfect for a builder. Like, you need a blueprint for the next thing. Like, it makes so much sense. So I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
guys, make sure you go check that out. Deanna, my dear, I'm so grateful that you've come into my life. I feel like this is a beautiful friendship that is brewing here. Before we go,
Thank you, Caleb.
what would be your final words of wisdom that you want to leave us with today?
Um, I don't know. I guess just be sure and take the moments and just breathe. Just breathe. It'll be better tomorrow and it'll improve. And just breathe. Take it as it comes.
You know what? sometimes we just need to remember to just take a breath, because that's it. That's all we need to do. It's in that space that beautiful things happen. So I love that. You're wonderful. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom
You
today.
too, Caleb.
Everybody, please, please, please go check that out, especially if ability blueprints with Deanna. Click the show notes and you'll find it all there. Thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your time and your energy with us today. And until next time, I remind you to love everybody.